All right, thank you everybody for joining us today. This is another one of the Blanden's Art Talks. It's something that we started kind of this last year as we kind of closed down for COVID reasons. We haven't been able to have our normal artist receptions, and so this is a way that we can have a conversation with the artist, and the artist can share their process with you, the viewers, talk about their artwork in general, and talk about their creative evolution as an artist. And so this is something that we've been doing with every artist since the pandemic started, and something we'll probably continue on here as we kind of move forward, even after we open back up for receptions and things for the museum, just because it adds this kind of nice intimacy and kind of a general conversation with the artist. And so I thank you again for joining us today on this Art Talks. We have artist Roger Feldhans with us and his exhibit Color Bomb, currently on display at the Blanden Art Museum on the second floor. Just a wonderful display of color and fantastic images that everybody should come and see and experience. And so we are open to the public Tuesday through Wednesday through Saturday with restricted hours 1 to 4. We may start to open those up possibly in May, but we'll have to see. It depends on the numbers of COVID cases in the area. So stay tuned for that kind of information. But please stop by and see us on one of those days, Wednesday through Saturday. We always look forward to seeing people come into the museum and enjoy the artwork. We've got some fantastic exhibits going on currently. So check us out on our website at blanden.org and on Facebook. And you can also see this video and others on our YouTube channel as well. So let me get my questions out here, Roger.
Okay.
We'll do this kind of all professionally. So, so thanks for coming today and doing this kind of interview. It's more like a conversation, I usually say, because we usually get way off topic, which is fine. So thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been just an amazing experience. It really has.
Well, good. And you know, since it's been up, we've had so many people come through and see it and are just amazed by the images, fascinated by the process. And so later on today, we'll be doing a demonstration that will be recorded as well. And so a lot of people are just really interested in seeing how these things these images are produced, because it's kind of you know, for a lot of people, it's like magic or mysticism, you know, which they don't fully understand. So I think having that demonstration will be fantastic.
Well, I always say it's part science, part math, but mostly magic.
Yeah. Well, just like any art, right?
Yeah, any art is that way, yeah.
So why don't you share with everybody a little bit about yourself, kind of talk about your background and you know, how did you get into being creative or making art, and you know, share with everybody, just you know, let us know who Roger is.
Okay, I'm Roger Feldhans. I'm one of 13 children, and we're all pretty creative. Our parents allowed us to be individuals, and that was great. I kind of went beyond where most of them go. Early on, our folks gave us, you know, like crayons, and that's how it all starts, is that color thing. I am addicted to color. It's in all of my art, it's everything that I do, and I progressed through that. In elementary school, I was a little more advanced than most students, and so they put me in a tag program for a few things, but art was my big one. And that's where I learned about tie-dye and those things that I really got into, because it was just that color. Mm-hmm. You know, at home we had this wall, and whenever we were bored, my mom would say, go cut fish. And this wall was nothing but fish, colored fish, out of different colors of construction paper.
Yeah.
And that really, I think, set the tone of how I see color.
Okay.
Of those sizes and shapes, and putting the colors together and all that. And then it just builds from there, and you go on, you know, junior high and high school. High school, most of my art classes were more of a independent study.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just kind of give me an overview of this is what we need you to do, but they also kind of turned me loose.
Okay.
Same thing in college. It was just, I've always been kind of self-taught, but I like a little bit of structure and a little bit of direction.
Mm-hmm. And
then, you know, got out of that and actually got a job, and I currently work as a custodian at Iowa Central Community College, and I've been a custodian most of my life working in schools, and that allows me the freedom to do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It gives me the freedom to go out and do things and be a little different,
A little different.
yeah, just a little. And the students inspire you and keep you going,
Mm-hmm.
and really just help you in what you're doing. And the schools have been great in allowing me to be and do what I need to do, be who I am. And you know, this is a, I don't want to call it a hobby because it's so far beyond that.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it a hobby, no.
It is, it's my passion. It's what I see. I see it every day, everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that eventually brought me here.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. And we're glad that you are here and, you know, being able to share your talent with the community and the visitors of the Blanden. And so, you know, it's very interesting hearing different artists and how they kind of, their background and different things in their background and how that kind of has, in a way, molded kind of their, you know, their outcome
Oh, yeah.
a little bit, you know. I love that story about the fish. I'm going to have to try that at home with my kids because my kids get bored all the time apparently. So
It was just one of those things, and we just did it,
and you left it up.
and I'm 99% sure that we just left it when we moved.
Oh, really? Fun. I'll have to try that. So, well, good. So, what made you interested then? Because you talked a little bit about tie-dyeing, and you did that for a long period of time,
Yes.
right? So, what made you interested in pursuing photography then?
My color palette kind of changes from time to time, and you know it's a lot drawing, painting. I got into spin art for a while to blend colors and do things with colors that I couldn't do, you know, any other way. And then tie-dye became a way to put more freedom into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pattern, but it's also a freedom and blending that together, and you're getting all that in one thing. And I did that a lot. I mean, a whole lot. And I used some industrial dyes and things that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And so the doctor said, it's probably best if you find another pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already doing photography.
Okay.
And then, you know, this just kind of developed out of that, but this also gave me a three-dimensional look that I couldn't get with the tie-dye. In fact, you said it one day, this was my new tie-dye.
Yeah, and I still feel that way. They are reminiscent of the kind of the tie-dye aesthetic, and I think it allows you to play with colors just the same way you would with tie-dyes, and you know, and you're just adding that. I think, like you said, you're adding that extra layer of space and dimension, which you know expands on you know your knowledge of fabric and color and so on. And now you're expanded it into space, and so. I mean, in a way, you're kind of like a you know a quantum scientist or something like that, right? Dealing with space, light, and the changes that happen. So,
Yeah. Well, it's like when you do tie-dye, you fold it. This is like unfolding it in front of the camera.
yeah. Well, like again, I said quantum science right there, folding space and light, and so. Fantastic. So, what does your work aim to say, or what do you want people to see or feel, and you know, or learn? I mean, and so this is kind of a general question, And sometimes it's hard for artists to answer
Yeah.
because maybe it's just about the creative process. But is there something that you're trying to express or say?
It's just, there's light everywhere, you know, and you look for it. And it's not just the light painting, but it's what you see every day and how you see it. And there's just a beauty to it, you know. I tell people there's beauty everywhere if you look for it. Even in abandoned buildings, old barns, rusty old cars, things like that. But this, it's more controlled, and it just becomes that. I compare it to looking at flowers. You know, you look at them, and hopefully you're drawn in, and you want to see more.
Yeah.
And when people go to a garden or anything and they're looking at flowers, you're drawn in, and you just want to keep looking and seeing more and develop from there.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. It's like you don't have to, the flower doesn't have to justify itself to you,
Right.
you know.
It just
I think
is, and then you take out of it what you see in it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to explain it. I mean, and I think that's the great thing about these pictures is that people can see multiple different things within the image. It depends on what they're bringing to it, just like any artwork,
Yeah.
you know. So I think they're fantastic because I can see different images in here, and I can read them in a different way than someone else seeing them and reading them. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the greatness of these images, and I think that's why they're so powerful, is that they allow the viewers to be able to do that, and different viewers to be able to interchange.
Yeah, and I enjoy when people come up and tell me what they see and how they interpret it without knowing why I did that particular piece.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, fantastic. Does your work ever explore themes? And if they do, what themes are you're exploring?
I don't know if it's so much themes. I mean, it's, to me, the theme is the color, color and light. And it's just an exploration of that, you know, figuring out ways to show it, ways to use color to change someone's feeling or mood, and just let them take that in, because you do similar patterns in different colors, you'll get different reactions. So I think that's probably the biggest theme is choosing the colors that express that, because you can make something appear very dark, and just by changing the colors that you use, it can become a very positive light thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, color in itself is a very powerful thing, and people have used color throughout the ages to express different things. You know, like I know that like Disney uses colors very powerful. You know, they have certain colors they use for villains, certain colors they use for heroes. And when when someone comes along and messes with that, it kind of messes with the whole kind of parameters, which is always an exciting thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, color and light, I think, are you know, just this amazing thing that we all live with. We all live with it day to day. You know, light is all around us. We see color, we interpret color, even on a subconscious level, we're interpreting, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, well, along with that, I mean, and this is a question I'd just like to ask, is that, you know, does your work make any type of, you know, contemporary comments on culture, society, political issues, and if they do, you know, can you explain a little bit?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I work in a lot of different art forms. I paint, I sculpt, I do other things, and some of my other work does that, and
Okay.
that's what I save that for. This is more of that interpersonal experience for the viewer. You know, they get to put into it whatever they want. It isn't. I'm not directing them. You know, I try not to, even with the titles, too much. Just allow them to determine what it is, how they see it, and where they want it to go.
Yeah. in a way, it's kind of like, the surrealists used to use like an automatic drawing, or like, to access like the subconscious. Do you do any of that kind of stuff where you're just like, you're just in the moment, you're just doing what you do, and, waiting for the result at the end? Is that kind of, is there any connection with that kind of idea from like the surrealists, that kind of automatic drawing? And
Yeah, there is, because you just, as you go through your process, you find your location, all that. But then that just kind of turns on, and says, this is what this time and this moment is right now. And this is how I need to move to create what I am.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
Because I let the time and space determine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in a way, it's really interesting, because I think the work, even though they're well, how can I say it? I think the work is like this incredible layering of different kind of artistic approaches or styles kind of combined in one. One, you're dealing with color in a very expressive way, which can lead to like, the expressionists and that aspect. We talked a little bit about, maybe a surrealist kind of influence there with the auto drawing, or just letting, the subconscious do what it needs to do. But also too, it's these are action images, and so it references action painting and that whole aspect too. And so, for me, I always love those type of artworks where you're combining all these different kind of things into one new thing for the audience to enjoy. Do you ever think about, is that an active part of your process where you're thinking about past artists and those type of things? And there's a question later on, that talks about like influences. Is that something that you mindfully think about, or is it something that just happens because of all your years of study? And
it just, you don't think of specific artists, but you think about what they did and their process and how they went about it and their end results. And I think as an artist, anytime that you study the history, that sticks in your mind. It's just sitting back there, and it's not always real conscious.
Yeah.
It just says, this, and use this, and then you take it from there.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to explain it. You're not actively trying to be like someone, but because you've researched or you've studied and you spend time looking at other artists' works, it becomes kind of ingrained into who you are. I often reference, when I used to teach, I used to say, you need to build your artistic vocabulary, and that's by looking and seeing and doing research on these artists to build up that vocabulary that will end up being part of your voice. And so I think it's very similar to that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to go beyond their work.
Yeah, definitely.
Find out about their life. Find out what their life was like. Because that will tell you a lot about their work.
Yeah, yeah. So, we kind of touched on it a little bit about your process. And I know that you brought some tools with you here, and we'll be doing a demonstration later, but can you explain some of your tools that you use for some of these?
Some of my tools are handmade, some are bought, and that's one of the coolest things, and we'll get into that, how it's changed and how rapidly it's changing. Because there's this amazing light painting community out there. It is just, it's all about exploring and sharing. And if you do something, you tell everybody how to do it. You just do. And there was a time when photographers really didn't like doing that. But now it is the thing to do. It makes us all better. It pushes us forward. It inspires us. It gets us to do things that we wouldn't normally do. And there's one guy that made a huge impact on light painting, and I don't think a lot of people realize how big it is. And he did it all by making one little rubber tool.
Yeah.
And his name is Jason Page, and he runs light painting brushes. And he did this tool, and what's amazing is this fits on 3/4 inch PVC.
Okay.
And any flashlight that goes in the end will light up whatever you hook on
Nice.
to this end of it.
Yeah.
And it opened the door.
Yeah.
It just said, you guys, I found the lock, the key. This is it. Put this in there and run.
Yeah.
And he started putting out tools and tutorials and things like that. And it really did. I think it changed light painting forever. I mean, because most of the guys I know use this.
Yeah. Now, is this available for people to, to purchase?
Yeah, you go to his website and,
Okay.
and he's got tools there, and I tell you what, this is the first thing you get.
Yeah.
Because it is that good, because you can use it on his. There's others who create tools that use it.
Okay.
And the tools that you create yourself, you can use it on those.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll try to put a link.
It helps to really control the light,
Yeah.
because you don't have to worry about taping a flashlight to something,
Yeah, exactly.
and it becomes a quick interchange.
Yeah. And we'll put a link to his website
Yep.
at the end of the video here, so
Yes.
people can.
Can find this.
Yep,
this
exactly.
stuff.
So what's this other tool that you have?
And then this is the guy that really got me thinking, working, and going like I am. And when you come to the exhibit, as you come in, we have the TV set up.
Yep.
And Dennis Smith, he's from Australia, he gives a talk and kind of explains what you'll see here, a little bit about the process, and he explains it so much better than I do. But he goes so far beyond, merchandise and that. He inspires you, he challenges you, he gets you to do things. And this is one of the things that he does, and he does what's called the ball of light.
Okay.
And it's just an orb of light. But he made this tool, and this is probably one of the coolest things, because the problem with light painting is turning on and off the light, controlling the light. Well, his works so that you can turn it off and on from your hand while
Nice.
this is out there spinning around.
Yeah.
But you can also control how bright it is.
Oh, nice.
So you have a lot of control.
Yeah.
And it allows you to adjust for your environment, what you're trying to get across, all that. It makes a huge difference. And things like that are really big.
Yeah.
And I like that, because sometimes I want to be a little delicate, and sometimes I just want to be like, just in your face.
Yeah,
Just, here, do this. Look at this. Don't turn away yet.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that, in his video talk that he does, and I think it was just amazing that he did that, and it's obvious that he really enjoys your work and what you've done to the whole field of color painting, or painting with light. But he goes into some of his talks where he talks how light painting has helped him emotionally, kind of almost like a kind of a therapy in a way, in terms of dealing with mental health issues and everything like that, which is, I think, something that we all can relate to now, living through a whole kind of thing that's changed our entire lives, the pandemic. So, I mean, have you experienced any of that, and do you see, work like this and the act of creating the work kind of therapeutic and in a way helping with, just the day-to-day stresses of the current situation?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's an escape. It is. It's just because you're taking away the reality that's around you and creating something that is and isn't there. You create it, you see the image, but it's so fleeting. It's just there for a nanosecond.
Yeah.
And it is, it's a great way to just forget about all that's around us at that moment. And I've done this in workshops and with groups, and it gets everybody there. I mean, the viewer too, and I've had people just come and watch, and then they look at the back of the cameras, and they're just, you know, because they see the movement and they see everything, and suddenly everything else is gone.
Yeah.
And for me, that's been invaluable. Just being able to go out, find a place. You're usually by yourself or with a couple people, and just do and not think about those other things till you get back in the car and drive back into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it lets you be in the moment and experience the moment, and you know, in a way, I mean, a lot of these take place outside, correct?
Yeah.
And so, you know, in a way, you could talk like you're grounding yourself back to nature. In a way, you're experiencing nature, and you're out there in the elements. I think can be also very therapeutic, just being outside.
I think that's part of where I'm heading with the work. Is I want to make it more environmental. I want to go bigger, and I want to incorporate the environment a lot more.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see how this transforms, Roger. Let's see. I think you've kind of talked about this a little bit. You know, we talked about your process, your creative process, and it's more of just getting out into a space, using the tools. Is there anything else that you want to add to that? I mean, when you're in different locations, do you kind of think about how I can use light in this location, or is it just like I'm just experimenting?
Sometimes it's experimenting, but sometimes you get a feel when you're somewhere. And you'll notice quite a few of my images have bridges. And they're one of those things I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
And you see things, because a bridge is a path somewhere, and you meet both obstacles and things that are really positive.
Yeah.
During that passing on the bridge. And so I try to incorporate that, you know, get that sense of awe when you're on a bridge and you're looking around, but you're also in total darkness, so I bring that light to it.
Yeah.
And in some of the places are found by accident, and some it's a conscious thing. You go out and look for certain elements.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I'm headed, is finding those elements to incorporate.
Okay. Do you do any research in terms of connecting with, you know, well, obviously you do some research in terms of tools and things. Do you do other types of research?
Oh, definitely. You know, I study light a lot, and how it reacts with different things, because there's different ways that you treat plastic to get a different look, either a sharp look or a muted look, and those types of things. I like playing with glass. Glass gives a totally different look and feel. There's a piece here that it looks like liquid. It looks like chrome, and that's glass. And it almost takes it back to its natural state.
Okay.
And Jesse Bougainville made me a few pieces to use, and it's amazing, and I want to explore that end of it and get into that a little bit more. The pandemic kind of shut him down for a little bit, so we didn't get as much of that done as we wanted to.
Yeah.
But it's still there, and you're constantly, you know, studying light. One of the pieces here was shot in infrared.
Okay. The one behind you,
Right behind you.
yeah.
Was shot in infrared, and because I found these infrared flashlights, and when you're operating them, when you're using a regular flashlight with a tool on the end of it, you see the light.
Yeah.
An infrared one, you don't see anything. You're not even sure if it's on. You're just hoping at that point that you turn it on right. And so I like to explore that spectrum of light.
Okay.
And see what I can bring into that.
Yeah.
And find out where that goes. So there's a lot of research, a lot a whole lot of studying of different types of light, different spectrums, you know,
Yep.
color changes, all those.
Yeah. Well, it's just fascinating because, you know, I've done a little bit of research just because of the gallery lights that we put into the museum, and there's so much more to light that people just don't realize, you know, different Kelvins, different temperatures, different looms, and
Lumens, you
yeah.
know, and that plays a big part with your tools, with your flashlights, with, you know, your studying.
Yeah.
You know.
So in a way, you're not only an artist, you're also kind of a scientist and a researcher in a way with these, where you're experimenting, you're investigating, you're playing around with this physical thing called light, which is not physical. I mean, it's like this physical, not physical thing, right? So I think that's just another layer to this work. And, you know, talking about the infrared, I mean, just that whole aspect. It's like, now I want to play with invisible light. I'm like, what?
Yeah, how do you get there?
Right. And it's like this is a whole new realm of reality. I mean, and it's going to be fascinating to see how your work grows and develops over the years, and hopefully the Blanden can be a continual part of that that development. So we're doing pretty good here. So talking about your influences a little bit, are there artists that you are currently looking at, not so much for inspiration, but just interested in their works and how they're putting things together that may relate to photography and may not relate to photography?
One of my biggest photography influence was Mark Hauser, because of his approach to it. I mean, he kept everything simple. It was just, you know, he shot most of his portraits in the corner of his apartment because he had this strange angle there, but it just worked. And he found things like that. He made do with what he had, and that really taught me a lot.
Yeah.
You don't have to go all out and go big, but keep it simple and tell the story.
Yeah. Well, in a way, you're kind of doing that. You're keeping it very simple and using what you have. When you're talking about a flashlight, you know, we've got examples of kids' toys, you know, PVC pipes and everything else. And so, I mean, just that aspect, you're staying very true to, you know, your artist influence.
Yeah. And Jason Reinhardt, he's a light painter, but he uses everyday household objects. And it's amazing sometimes you look at it and go, wait, how? You know, even I go, how?
Yeah.
You know, and then you just kind of figure it out. So it's people like that really just play big, you know, and I enjoy looking at their work and breaking it down.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing for me with light painters that I watch is I break their work down to see how they did it. I still enjoy the beauty of it, the whole aspect of it, but my mind, the analytical part, just says, this is how.
Yeah, you're interested in the mechanics of the production of the image and the image at the same time.
Yeah. But not to copy it, but more as an inspiration of, wow, you know, Rod Evans does stuff with, I got a couple little like, they're pressure squirt guns that you get at the dollar store.
Yeah.
He does some amazing things with that, you know, and I'm lucky to draw lines. So, you know, it's like Dennis Smith said one time, you find your space, you'll find your light.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a great saying. Yeah. So do you think your enthusiasm comes when you see something from another artist that you just don't understand how I mean, does that kind of get you really excited, like, I want to try to see if I can duplicate this? Is that part of your process?
Yeah, it's a fascinating, I don't so much try to duplicate it, but once I see what their tool is, and that's the neat part about the community aspect of it, of sharing is, guys will show you their tool. You know, this is what I use to create this. And, you know, and then you figure out the motion, or if they do a video, you know, you can actually see it. And it makes a huge difference, but you figure, how do I use that?
Yeah.
You know, what's the me in there? You know, not just do what they did, but put myself into it.
Yeah.
And just kind of change that around.
I think that could perfectly lead into our next question. It's like, what piece of advice have you been given over your career, and what advice would you give young artists that want to explore not only light painting, but also just being creative?
Best advice I ever got was don't go from here to your hand. Go here to your heart to your hand. And that makes a lot of sense, because your brain to your hand is purely mechanical. You know, it's like throwing a ball, that kind of thing. But when you paint, you know, whether it be with light or with a paintbrush or a draw or anything, your heart has to be involved to get that look and that feel. You have to put the feel into it. And I think that was the best thing that I ever got told.
Yeah.
And what I tell young people, stay young.
Yeah.
Don't fully adult. You know, I've had people call me immature, and rightfully so sometimes. But I think that's part of what keeps it going, is that creative side. Is I take care of business when business needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I'm still thinking like that 10, 11-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Who says, what if?
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to try.
Yeah. Well, I just recently saw something or read something where, you know, it's like an artist is always in the process of continual play, and you need to keep this kind of attitude of play and not become too serious to that you forget about that playful element.
Yeah.
You know, there's been artists over the years that have always talked about, you know, painting like a child, like Picasso had said that, and you know, other artists like Dubuffet, you know, was always interested in following a line where you're not so much controlled by understanding, but it's all about just letting the materials and the work do what they need to do and explore and play and just kind of keep it light and exciting. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, is you know, see it as new each time. You know, try to see it as something new. Don't just get into this rut of process.
Yeah.
You know, be amazed. You know, because there's times because I have an idea in the back of my head of what the image will look like. And there's times I walk and look at the back of the camera and just go, whoa. You know, it's just like, that's not quite it, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and I like that aspect of it, because that keeps it going. That gives you the next one. That's like, now I know. Now I can incorporate this and try this.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think that's great. Great bit of advice. I think that's probably the best advice that anybody can give is to continue to play, let your heart be part of the process, and don't overthink it too much. Which
don't become too process involved.
Yep.
Get that play element, and it comes through, and people see it, and you'll see it in their faces when they see your work.
Yeah. Exciting. All right. Well, let's see. Last question. You know, for you, what does it mean to exhibit at the Blanden and be a part of this legacy that the Blanden represents for the community of Fort Dodge and north central Iowa?
Wow. In junior high, we came over did the standard school tour. I was just enthralled from that very moment of walking in. And I pretty much told myself, I'm going to be in here someday.
Yeah.
In fact, we lived in Rockwell City.
Okay.
And I rode my bike over here.
Really? That's quite a
25 miles.
Yeah, that's quite a distance.
And most kids, when they came to Fort Dodge, went to McDonald's, went to the mall.
Yeah.
You know, I'd come and sit here until they told me I had to go home. You know, and it was just, it's hard to even put into words.
Yeah.
Where I feel at home. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like you belong. And, you know, and I'd say it all through high school and stuff, and kids were just like, oh, yeah, right. You know, and I jokingly tell people I got in before I was dead.
So it's always a goal for any artist.
That's the big thing. Is I'm not dead yet. In fact, we had a couple came in last week, and I hadn't seen them since the pandemic started.
Yeah.
And they came up to look at the show, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
I said, I got in here before I was dead. And we were laughing, and it got a little loud. But, you know, it was okay.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't feel like we were doing something really bad, but there was a joy there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what this is about. It's about that joy, and I get it brought to me, so I want to bring it to everybody else.
No, that's good. Yeah. Well, you know, and we at the Blanden, we always trying to create a welcoming environment for people to come. You know, we don't we don't present ourselves as kind of a, you know, a hooty tooty or a too stodgy kind of place, you know. And
Well, you let me in.
well deserved. I mean, these are fantastic images.
I mean, just over the years coming in, I've always felt.
Well, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You know, because we're a part of the community, and you know, we want to ensure that the full community can participate in this wonderful cultural institution that they've had. You know, not only as a visual resource, but you know, and like for you, it's like, you know, it gives young artists kind of a goal to reach for. You know, I would love to see my work hanging on the walls, you know, and so on. I think that's great inspiration.
Yeah, a young artist, set those goals.
Yeah.
You know, just even if they seem unattainable.
Yeah.
The steps getting there makes it worth it.
Well, and too, you know, the work that is up in, because we've got three galleries here at the museum, and so I think the really great thing is that these works can play with other works within the museum.
Oh.
Not, you know, even if they're not side by side, people can see and experience one body of work, come up and see another body of work, and then make those kind of cross conversations between, you know, your show, which is a perfect example, and the other exhibit we have going on in the East Gallery. Yeah. There's a communication that can happen not only with the element of color, how the color is used, and light in general, you know, between the two works. And so I think, you know, for me as you know, director curator of the museum, it's really great to have those kind of experiences, and hopefully people come in and then start having those experiences without being directly told about it. And so I think, you know, like I've said before, people have come in, they've seen the work, they're amazed by it, they want to know more about it, which is fantastic.
That's a great thing.
Yeah.
That's always.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see how people interact with different works, and they relate to them differently. And so.
Well, Dennis Smith touches on that about find that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you're not going to like them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, because people ask me, do I have a favorite? I'm like, I can't pick a favorite.
Yeah, it's like your children. You can't pick a favorite child.
And that changes minute to minute, day to day. You know, it does.
Yeah. One last question I have, and I should have touched on it earlier, but you know, one thing that I've noticed is that the sphere or the circle kind of shows up quite a bit. Is that intentional? Is that just part of the process? And do you want to talk about that a little bit?
The sphere, circles, they're a big part of it because that's your natural body movement. You don't move in straight lines. Mm-hmm. You don't move. You're not that stiff, not that rigid. So everything kind of has a flow to it. And that's part of the beauty of it is, as a light painter, I think a lot of us want to capture that flow.
Yeah.
And give it a sense of movement. And so people see beyond the image. You know, the image may quit at the edge of the frame or the mat, but you're in your mind, it's still
Kind of still flowing.
still flows a bit.
Well, good. Well, again, Roger, fantastic exhibit.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in today and
Thank
doing
you.
this
This is fun.
interview, whatever you want to say.
This is fun.
I try to keep it as loose as possible, so hopefully you were relaxed. And thank you for sharing all your insight and your knowledge and who you are with the public. And any last words that you'd like to say before
No,
we kind of
just
close it?
Come down, take a look. This is, it's hard to put into words. This is a lot of work. It's a lot to put into a show. Dennis Smith said it takes courage to do this, and you can't imagine how much to put your work out there on a wall and ask people to come and look, you know, and see what they see. So, you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I think you'll see things a little bit differently, and you might see me a little differently.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's an honor to have you up on our walls here at the museum, at the Blanden Art Museum. So, again, thank you for tuning in today. That you can catch this film. It will be on YouTube, our YouTube channel. We'll probably have a post of it on, or link to it on our Facebook page as well. Please like us and follow us on Facebook. And do stop in and check out the exhibits that we have going on, especially Roger's. It's located on the second floor of the Blanden Art Museum. And if you don't know where the Blanden Art Museum is, it's located kind of right off of downtown Fort Dodge, Iowa. Our address is 920 3rd Avenue South. And please come and spend the day with us here at the museum. And we'll look forward to seeing you all here at the Blanden Art Museum. So thanks again, and we will talk with you later.